Hi angels, this will be the chapter 37 of You Are My Heroes by Lavender Thoughts 21 on AO3. After lunch, the kids were eager to go outside again to continue their game of keep up. When they exited the back door, even Todoroki ran to get the ball into play. It seemed like he had found his new favorite activity. Meh, I wanna do it. Midoriya yelled out in distraught as the other two boys easily passed him. Too slow, Bakugo teased as he was in arm's reach of the ball. However, Todoroki was right behind him, and instead of wasting time bending down to pick up the ball, Shoto used it to steal it from the blonde's grasp. Taking Midoriya's request, Todoroki kicked the ball toward the kid who picked it up in delight. Bakugo huffed angrily about the stolen ball, but didn't stay mad long since Izuku immediately started the game. Ready, set, go! Midoriya shouted as he threw the ball high into the air, Todoroki and Bakugo running to be the first to hit it. Smells like rain, Aizawa muttered as he took his place leaning against the house. Looks like some clouds are coming in, Taishiro agreed as the bright day seemed to turn grayer. The adults decided to let the kids have as much fun as they could before the rain started pouring. As the game started, Taishiro noticed that Shoto was less coordinated than he was before lunch. The kid had dropped the ball for the first time thanks to the Bakugo's challenging throws. But that was to be expected after bandaging his eye again. He must have lost his depth perception. Although it didn't falter his movements for long, the boy shortly got used to the handicap, and Bakugo also readjusted his throws to compensate. Heads up, Bakugo, I'm going to throw this one really high, Todoroki warned before hitting the red ball hard. Bakugo ran to catch up to the ball, but then he swiftly skidded to a stop, the ball landing yards away from him. Confused, both Midoriya and Todoroki walked over to see what had caused the boy to stop. Ah! Bakugo made a sound as he bent down to take a closer look at the thing he found. Snake? Todoroki questioned as he saw a reptilian head appear from the grass. Snake, the adults repeated in concern. Snake! Izuku screamed out in distress, flapping his hands and jumping up and down. Shh! Bakugo shushed the green-haired boy angrily as he bent down to take an even closer look. The adults were across the yard. The instant Shoto said the word snake. To their relief, it wasn't a big, venomous beast ready to take a bite into their children. That's not a snake, buddy. Taishiro sighed in relief at the little creature in the grass. That's a common garden lizard, Aizawa reassured them, unwrapping his scarf from Bakugo's leg. It was there to pull the kid far away in case it was a dangerous snake. The blonde didn't even notice the cloth on him till Aizawa called it away. It's safe, no bite? Izuku asked, sneaking up behind Bakugo for a closer look. I think they can bite, but it's too small, Todoroki hypothesized as he also bent down to look at the thing. The lizard snapped itself left to right as it saw it was being observed, revealing more of itself from the sea of grass. It was a light brown lizard with a darker brown making lines across its body. Wow! Look at the tail, Izuku pointed out excitedly as the lizard moved around. The tail was twice as long as its body. Bakugo, being the fearless one, made a grab for the lizard, but the prey instincts kicked in for the little fella, and it easily dodged and ran away. Kaken, grab it! Izuku shouted, hopping on his feet in excitement. Bakugo chased the lizard and didn't miss the second time he reached for it. Lizard in hand, Katsuki smiled wide and raised it in the air to show the caregivers, the proudest look on his face. So cool, Kaken, let me see, let me see. Midoriya chanted as the blonde walked the animal closer to him. Does it feel slimy? Todoroki asked, eye widened, as the blonde approached them with the creature. No, Bakugo answered simply, then added, It's cold and funny. The lizard was probably cold due to the sudden drop in temperature, and the blonde could probably feel the subtle textures of its scales contributing to a funny feeling in his fingertips. Can I touch? Midoriya asked, his index finger becoming shaky as he tried to touch the thing. Eee! Izuku squealed as the lizard began to struggle in Katsuki's grip, shaking side to side rapidly and opening its mouth. It's gonna bite, Todoroki warned, an increasing urgency in his voice as he too felt Izuku's anxiety. The lizard bit into Katsuki's finger, but the blonde just giggled at the little guy's attempt to escape. The scales moving around on his skin gave Katsuki textured joy at the soft tickle feeling. No hurt? Midoriya asked, and Bakugo shook his head. No. Like Sho said, it's too small, Aizawa reassured them. Can I hold it? Todoroki asked, and Bakugo moved his hand to pass the lizard. The movement scared the lizard, causing it to squirm around again. Katsuki let the lizard drop into the Shoto's hand, and the bicolored boy grasped onto it easily. The kid only held onto it for a couple of seconds before Izuku decided he was brave enough to try to hold the reptile too. Let me, Izuku shouted excitedly and held out his hands. Todoroki handed Izuku the lizard, but then the green-haired boy moved his open palms away. There was hesitation in his green eyes as he had second thoughts on touching it. Deciding to hold it by the least surface area possible, Midoriya reached to grab the lizard's tail with his fingers. The instant his finger gripped the tail, the lizard went haywire, squirming and struggling even harder than before. "Ee!" Midoriya practically screeched as Todoroki let go, the lizard flailing around before falling to the ground. However, despite being on the ground, the tail had unattached from the main body, leaving Izuku with a squirming tail in hand. Being freaked out, Midoriya let go of the tail and flapped his hands around as he squealed. Bakugo giggled at the boy's distress as he quickly went to re-catch the lizard. "Did I hurt it?" Izuku cried out as he calmed down, Todoroki poking at the seemingly possessed tail. "No, darling, they just do that when they get scared," Aizawa reassured. "Will it die?" Todoroki asked bleakly, and Midoriya's eyes widened with tears. No, it will be fine. It just needs to eat a couple of bugs, and it will grow back the tail in no time, kiddo." Taishiro took his turn to soothe the kid. "Can we feed him?" Midoriya asked, pouting, as Bakugo brought back the lizard, the tiniest bit of blood on its fresh wound. "Yeah, sure. Let me get a jar so you guys can see it without hurting the poor thing more," Taishiro suggested, running inside to grab the supplies. By the time Taishiro got out, the boys were spread across the yard, looking for bugs to feed the reptile, the poor lizard being dragged and bumped around as Bakugo searched with it still in hand. "Come on over," Aizawa called out, and the boys ran back to their side. Taishiro bent down and let Bakugo place the lizard in the empty transparent plastic jar. The boys watched as the lizard ran around the jar, but failed to get a grip on the slippery plastic. Giggling, Izuku tapped the jar, and the lizard opened its mouth, threatening to bite. "Did you guys find any food?" Aizawa asked, and they all shook their heads no. Figures with the lack of plants around, Aizawa took a stab at his friend's backyard. Even patches of the backyard had some bald spots. "Listen, man, I tried. I just don't have a green thumb like you," Taishiro argued, talking about his failed hedges in the front of the yard that turned into dried-up twigs. Aizawa smiled smugly as he thought about the flowers and vegetation thriving at his place. "You have a green thumb, Mr. Aizawa?" Shoto asked, looking closer at the man's hands. "Not literally, it just means I'm good at keeping plants alive," Aizawa explained, and the boy nodded. "Yeah, so many flowers at that house. Really good at making flowers," Izuku exclaimed enthusiastically as he thought about their stroll through the backyard the other day. "Hey, his food," Bakugo spoke up, huffing in annoyance. The blonde reminded them about their main objective, feeding the little creature in the jar. "Oh, I know," Taishiro said, pointing at the side of the doorway where a light was in need of some dusting. There, in between the light and the wall, there was a spider web, and in the web, a spider. Everyone, including Taishiro, watched in horror as Aizawa didn't hesitate to reach up and grab the spider barehanded. "It's gonna bite, doesn't it bite?" Izuku and Todoroki both voiced their concern at the same time, but all Aizawa did was chuckle at their looks of horror. Spider tightly clasped in his fist, Aizawa safely transported it until dropping it in the jar to the spider's untimely demise. Taishiro quickly tightened the lid as the spider crawled up to try to escape. Being forward-thinking, the big man had already made holes in the lid. "Look, look!" Midoriya called out as he saw the lizard immediately chomp down on the spider. "Cool," Bakugo said, his eyes shining as he saw the lizard chew and swallow the bug. "It's just nature," Shoto said dryly, but his eye was shining as well as he observed said nature for the first time in detail. Just then the rain rolled in. They heard it before it got to them. The big loud droplets hit hard on the neighboring roofs and objects outside. A couple of drops hit them as the wind picked up and threw the water droplets their way. "Rain," Midoriya called out as a drop fell on the tip of his nose. Taishiro hurriedly rushed everyone inside, closing the door behind him just in time before the rain could get them. "We have to play inside now, show. Can you show them the living room?" Taishiro asked, stumbling over the last of his sentence as he almost revealed Shoto's last name. Aizawa raised a suspicious eyebrow at his friend at his unusual stutter, but Taishiro ignored his gaze as he went to boil water for some tea for them. Luckily for Aizawa, unlike the outside of Taishiro's house, the inside had no shortage of chairs. Sitting down at the dining table, Aizawa kept watch on the boys as he let them mingle amongst themselves. Izuku did his usual routine of counting around the living room before following Todoroki, as the boy turned on the television. Bakugo made himself comfortable quickly as he climbed Taishiro's couch to sit down. The boys quickly followed his lead and climbed the seats to sit down as well, Bakugo ending up in the middle as the others sat on his sides. Katsuki was used to Izuku sitting close but straightened up when Todoroki sat next to him as well, only a couple of centimeters from touching. "That's not what I had in mind when I said play inside," Taishiro sighed as he saw that his kid had turned on the television. Should we not? Todoroki questioned, looking back at the man with a pout. No, it's okay. You boys don't mind, right? Aizawa said, and his boys shook their heads. No, their energy was wiped from the outside play. Taishiro was glad the boys didn't mind and were about to relax when he heard the water boiling in his kettle. Quickly he went to turn it off before it whistled. In the past days, he accidentally triggered a flashback in which Shoto became frantic at the sound. Anxiously, Taishiro hid the hot kettle in the sink out of view, knowing it would damage the sink, but he would rather have a destroyed sink than see Todoroki break down again. Taishiro sighed in relief as he saw Shoto flip through the channels to find some cartoons, unaware that the kettle was being used. Instead of cartoons, a flash of the number 1 hero caught the boys' attention instead. All Might, all 3 boys said in unison as they saw their favorite hero on television. Taishiro laughed out loud as he saw the kids give Shoto wide-eyed looks. You like All Might? Midoriya asked, and Todoroki nodded. Kaken likes All Might too, and me too. Midoriya explained, but before they could say more, the television mentioned their hero. Just moments ago, a villain terrorized this neighborhood as they destroyed half the homes trying to escape a failed attempt of a robbery. But All Might caught the villain in minutes as he stumbled upon the chaos. The news reporter covered the story as they ran to the scene of the crime, All Might holding down the villain as he waited for the cops to arrive. Winner is All Might, Bakugo said proudly, his arms raised in a victory fist. Of course, the strongest hero. Midoriya agreed, shaking his fist and rocking in his seat. I want to be a hero like All Might, Todoroki said, his mouth forming a soft smile as he remembered the time his mother encouraged him. The camera was shaky as many rivaling news anchors tried to get All Might's attention. Each of them asking questions for the pro-hero to answer, but each of their voices combines into an unintelligible swirl of noise. The man was just too popular. Taishiro served Aizawa hot tea as everyone watched the news on All Might. Aizawa clicked his tongue and rolled his eyes. He liked All Might, sure as a hero, but he thought the number 1 hero did too much promotional work, always appearing everywhere on television and in advertisements. The man thought back to the time he was working on getting his license, wanting to be an underground hero to get into the deeper cases, but despite graduating UA, he didn't end up being a hero at all. I only got one thing to say to all those posing a threat like this villain. All Might said out loud, most in an attempt to quiet the bombardment of the press. The kids on the couch straightened up as they sensed the iconic line was about to be said. I am here, all 3 boys said in unison, but their hero didn't get to finish the line. A flash of lightning blinded everyone as it illuminated the window, the ground shaking as it struck right outside. The power went out, and the rain seemed to pour harder at that exact second. It was overly dark for the time of day, thanks to the storm clouds outside, and the lights didn't come back on. It's dark, Midoriya cried out, and Aizawa turned on his flashlight on his way over. I'll get some light, Taishiro called out as his friend checked on the kids. Walking over with the flashlight of his phone, Aizawa saw 2.5 pairs of eyes shining as he approached. Izuku was holding on to Bakugo, pushing back on the couch to try to get behind the blonde. That was expected. What was unexpected and quite adorable in Aizawa's mind was Katsuki, who had a hand across Todoroki's chest, pushing the boy back to make sure he stayed in place. It's okay, guys, the lights will be on soon. Lighting must have blown a power line outside is all, Aizawa explained, Todoroki being the only one who nodded since he wasn't scared. I got light, Taishiro announced as he came out of the hallway, a humongous flashlight in hand. Setting the light on the dining room table, the big man faced it toward the living room for the kids. I also have this one, Taishiro said, handing Shoto a kid's mini battery-powered lantern. Can I hold it? Midoriya asked meekly, wanting the light to be closer to him. Here you go, Shoto passed him the lantern, Bakugo's hand leaving his vicinity as he deemed it unnecessary. Despite the green one being the most obvious distressed one, Aizawa was more keen on Bakugo's silent signs. The blonde had wide eyes that darted at every dark corner, and his breathing was too fast, like he had a reason to be afraid. It's okay, you're safe, Aizawa quietly reassured as he patted his boys on the head, Bakugo accepting the gentle touch. You good, bud? Taishiro asked Shoto, and the boy nodded. I'm not scared of the dark, Todoroki said, and instantly Bakugo straightened up. I'm not scared, the blonde declared, swiping Aizawa's away as he relaxed back into the couch with a huff. Me either, Midoriya lied, holding the lantern tight to his chest. Guess you guys have to do something else. Maybe try out those toys I bought you, Shoto, Taishiro suggested, and Todoroki nodded. As the adults went back for their tea, the boys followed Todoroki as he led them, Izuku lighting the way by holding out the lantern. Still, despite the light, Shoto tripped over an obstacle, but quickly caught himself. You okay? Midoriya asked as he lit up the object on the ground. Yeah, just tripped over this book. I was practicing my reading before you guys came. Shoto explained the reasoning of the book being in the center of the living room. You read? Can read words? Midoriya asked excitedly, and Bakugo picked up the book, handing it to Shoto with expectant eyes. Yeah, just small words. I'm still learning, Shoto explained as he turned the book over to the cover. What say? Bakugo questioned as he pointed to the title. The title is I Can Poopla Play Too, Todoroki. Read out the title as he pointed at the word, struggling a bit to read the word play. Can you read it now? To me and Kaken. Midoriya asked, and Bakugo nodded in agreement, both of them using their puppy dog eyes. Yeah, sure, Shoto agreed, and Izuku shook his fist up and down and giggled with excitement, the light shaking along with him. Todoroki walked them back to the couch and sat down in the middle. Izuku sat on Shoto's left, and Katsuki decided it would be better to sit on Shoto's right instead of being next to Izuku to see the book better. Izuku was not afraid to cozy up next to Todoroki, but Bakugo made sure they weren't touching. Shoto flipped the book to the first page, reading to the boys and trying not to stutter on words he didn't know off the bat. Midoriya and Bakugo didn't mind that Todoroki had to slow down his reading to sound out the words, but they did huff in disapproval as Shoto flipped the pages himself. Seeing this, Shoto used the system where one would flip the page, then the other after them. I will not want to pua. Shoto struggled on the word play again, not being able to remember which A sound it used. Play. Bakugo helped out the boy, and everyone's eyes were on him. Kaken, you can read. Why never say? Midoriya asked, his eyes filled with questions about the boy he thought he knew. Can't, the blonde said, denying it. But you read the word before I did. Shoto questioned him, a bit of disbelief in his voice. Can't read, just front big letters, Bakugo insisted. You remembered the characters for the word play? Aizawa theorized, and Bakugo nodded, confirming he didn't actually read it, but unintentionally memorized the letters in the specific order and what it symbolized. See, can read, Midoriya said with a little pout at his friend's secret talent. That's not really reading, but you do have a good memory, Aizawa corrected. Ooh, with a super good memory like that, you're going to be a promising student one day, Bakugo. Taishiro hyped the blonde one, and Katsuki held his chin high with a smile. Izuku, on the other hand, frowned. Midoriya is pretty good with numbers. I have no doubt he'll excel in school as well, Aizawa added with more pep in his voice for emphasis. Midoriya got his smile back, and he nodded in agreement, counting his fingers out loud to show that he indeed knew numbers. Bakugo, however, clicked his tongue annoyed and shushed the boy. Read, Bakugo demanded Shoto to continue reading, putting the collar of his shirt in his mouth to chew on. Oh yeah, the snake is saying I can play too, Todoroki read off the page. The boy continued reading. From what Aizawa gathered, it was about a snake that wanted to play catch with a pig and elephant. But since it didn't have arms, they were struggling to figure out how to play together. How gonna play with no arms? Izuku questioned, a yawn escaping his lip turn causing Bakugo to yawn. That's when Aizawa realized that this reading session might end up being a snoozing session. Unintentionally, they had set up a perfect scenario for the boys to fall asleep. Being 3-year-olds, granted almost 4, they were still at the age where they take naps. They had just eaten lunch, so their bellies were full. The rain was making perfect white noise, and despite it being midday, the dark clouds made it very dim inside. But of course the final nail of the coffin was that they were on a soft couch being read a story. I can try, said the snake, cool. I will Hero throw the ball, said the elephant. Try to catch it, said the pig. Todoroki continued the story, trying hard on his reading skills. Izuku started to lean off Shoto as he read to him, the exhaustion of playtime weighing on him. Hehara, here comes the bee-ball, said the elephant, boink. Shoto said the sound effect, and Izuku giggled, waking up as the funny part of the book became apparent. Bakugo huffed in amusement, but was struggling to stay awake, eyes watery as he yawned again. Todoroki continued reading, and Izuku almost dozed off until another funny part appeared. More balls, said the snake. Todoroki voiced the snake with a concerned tone, catching the green-haired boy's interest. As soon as Shoto turned the page, Izuku started to giggle as an attack of tennis balls rained on the poor snake with a funny face. What sent Midoriya into a full-blown laugh was when Shoto tried to read every tiny ink on the page in rapid succession of each other. Even Bakugo let out a couple of chuckles as he leaned on Todoroki for a better view. Shoto continued the book, and the boys listened, regretting making a fuss about turning the pages, because now they were too tired to. Each time Shoto would finish reading the page, one of the boys would sluggishly flip the paper to the next one. I love playing catch with my friends. That's it, Todoroki finished the story, the animals solving the problem by playing catch with the snake as the ball to be included. It was a funny ending to a funny book, but not funny enough to get more giggles from Izuku. Bakugo was the one to yawn this time, unapologetically leaning even more into Shoto. The blonde had found that leaning against Todoroki felt nice and cool against his skin, which was great for someone who gets hot easily. Izuku yawned after him, but he was more bold, embracing Shoto's arm like a plush. Except Shoto didn't feel cool to him. To Izuku, Shoto was warm and cozy, which was great for someone like him that gets cold easily. That's why Bakugo and Midoriya like to sleep next to each other. They're so compatible. Bakugo gets hot easily, but Midoriya would always steal that warmth, creating a perfect temperature between the two. However, it now seemed Todoroki was the missing link, his hidden quirk making him a warm and cool person. "You okay there, Sho?" Taishiro called out with a chuckle as the boy lost his personal space. "Yeah," Shoto said, looking at the kids, who were basically sleeping on him. Seeing that he was trapped, the boy took a big, relaxing breath and sunk back further on the couch, the book falling off his lap and to the floor as it was forgotten. Luckily, the rain seemed to die down, light shining in through the windows as the dark clouds passed, taking the rain with it. It was then that Aizawa decided that they should go home. "I better head home now before the rain picks up again," Aizawa told his friend, standing up to save Shoto from his boys snuggling. "Yeah, I say run and take your chance now," Taishiro agreed and got up to walk the man out. "Come on, wake up guys, we are leaving," Aizawa said, ruffling their hair to get them to rise. Bakugo grumbled annoyed and tried to hide his face into Shoto's literal cold shoulder. "Izuku, come on," Aizawa tried, but the boy held on tighter to Todoroki's arm. "I don't mind," Shoto said, giving the man the option to leave them where they were. "We still have to go before the rain comes back," Aizawa explained, finding it sweet the boy tried to sacrifice his own comfort. Aizawa shook Midoriya's hand in an attempt to loosen the boy's fist, and it worked, the green-haired boy whimpering as he lost his warmth. Looking up at Aizawa with sleepy eyes, Izuku motioned his hands up to be picked up. Before the boy could change his mind, Aizawa scooped him up and Midoriya quickly hung on and rested his chin on the man's shoulder, his eyes closing as he gave in. "Time for bye-bye, Bakugo," Aizawa told the blonde as he ruffled his hair to get him alert. Bakugo tried to smack the man's hands away, but he was too sluggish to be a threat. Yawning and stretching, Katsuki got himself up and off the couch as he saw that his friend was already taken prisoner. "We had a good time. We should get our boys together for another play date," Aizawa said as he walked to the front door, Taishiro helping him put his bag on. "Yeah, for sure. Tomorrow, if you're up for it." "Oh, and don't forget the lizard. I put it in your bag," Taishiro warned. "What, why?" "I'm sure the little guy would be happier in your garden instead of mine. Now hurry out." "I have no doubt that rain is coming back," Taishiro said, opening the door, and sure enough there was another wave of dark clouds coming from the direction of Aizawa's house. Aizawa thanked the big man for his time and said goodbye to Todoroki as well. "Bye-bye," Izuku started as he heard the farewells, using the last of his energy to wave. "Love you, Shunikan." Midoriya slurred the rest before knocking out fully. "Bye-bye," Bakugo mimicked, stumbling as he followed Aizawa out the door. "Bye," Shoto called out to his new friends, a little pout forming. "Here, take this," Taishiro said as he opened and handed an umbrella to Aizawa. Aizawa thanked him and looked at the clouds, seeing that they had a minimum of a couple minutes before the rain started up again. The man came to the conclusion that he would have to carry Bakugo and make a run for it. They didn't have the time for his small steps. Fortunately, Aizawa didn't have to convince Bakugo to carry him because the blonde decided he didn't want to walk home. Instead, he pulled on Aizawa's pants and raised his arms to be picked up, a pout as he struggled to keep his eyes open. "Need help?" Taishiro asked, and Aizawa nodded, glad he was still at the door. Taishiro tried to pick up Katsuki to transfer him to Aizawa's, but the blonde aggressively refused. Seeing the boundary Bakugo put, Aizawa handed Taishiro the umbrella before kneeling, the blonde hopping on his arm and hanging on to him like Izuku was. With both hands supporting the boys, Aizawa had no choice but to make the run without the umbrella. "We'll see you soon. Thanks for everything," Aizawa said his final goodbye. "Wait a second, Bakugo, sweetie, do you want to hold the umbrella for Mr. Aizawa? It will help a lot," Taishiro tried, seeing that the blonde was still conscious. "Such a good helper." "Bye-bye now," Taishiro complimented as Katsuki held on tight to the umbrella. He was holding it all crooked, but it would do in a pinch. "I'm off," Aizawa said as he dashed back to his house, Taishiro entering back to his house to return to Todoroki. Aizawa ran as fast as he could back to his house, taking precautions not to slip on the wet sidewalk. Midoriya grumbled angrily as he was jostled around on the man's chest, grumpy at being awakened. Aizawa was sure he looked ridiculous. running in the middle of a storm with a book bag and carrying two boys, one of whom was swinging an umbrella around behind him. Thankfully, Aizawa didn't need the umbrella, his speed bringing him to the house before the rain came back. It seemed Bakugo was trying his best to hold onto the umbrella, because as soon as they entered the house, the thing fell to the floor. "All right, you can rest now," Aizawa assured them as he plopped them on the couch, Midoriya grumbling angrily again before adjusting himself to fall asleep. Bakugo also had enough, quickly finding his place next to the boy and promptly falling asleep. Aizawa put his book bag down on the coffee table and took out the jar with the lizard. It would be a shame if he forgot it, and the boys found it dead later, so he placed it on the coffee table, holes exposed to fresh air. The rain made the air chiller, so he went to bring the boys a blanket from their room, tossing it over them and tucking them in. Sighing, Aizawa sat down on the love seat and decided to take a nap as well. The pitter-patter of rain began anew as the storm came back for a second round. This is the end of chapter 37. I'll see you in chapter 38. If you have suggestions, let me know. Don't forget to subscribe to know when the next one is out. Have a good day, angels.